And all flesh creeping on the earth passed away, including the bird and the beast, including the bird. It's the Book of Secrets of Heaven, chapter 7, 21. And all flesh creeping on the earth passed away, including the bird and the beast and the wild animal and every crawling thing crawling on the earth and every human. Everything that had the breath of living spirit in its nostrils, of all that was on dry land, died. All flesh creeping on the earth passed away means that those who belonged to the final generation of the earliest church died out, including the bird and the beast, and the wild animal and every crawling thing. Crawling on the earth symbolizes their self-deceptions. The bird symbolizes an attachment to falsity. The beast symbolizes corrupt desires. The wild animal symbolizes sensual pleasure, and the crawling thing symbolizes bodily and earthly yearnings. Yearnings.
Yearnings.
Yearnings. Yearnings. Strong desire. Earthly yearnings. Yearnings. Earthly yearnings. These different impulses are contained within their self-deceptions, and taken together they are called every human. Everything that had the breath of living spirit in its nostrils symbolizes those who were part of the earliest church and had the breath of living spirit in their nostrils. That is, who had lived a life of love and of a faith based on love. Of all that was on dry land symbolizes people who no longer had any of that life. They died means that this life expired. Or expired. Yeah, expired.
Expired.
Expired. The meaning of all flesh creeping on the earth passed away as the fact that those who belonged to the final generation of the earliest church died out can be seen from later sections and that describe the delusions and desires. Here, for the first time, they are called flesh, creeping on the earth, because they became obsessed with sensory and bodily matters. Obsessed.
Obsessed.
It's like possessed. Obsessed with sensory and bodily matters. The earliest people compared sense impressions and bodily concerns to creeping animals, as noted earlier. So that when the text mentions flesh creeping on the earth, it symbolizes the kind of people who have become entirely absorbed in what is sensory and bodily. Previous statements and evidence have shown that flesh symbolizes everyone when used in a broad sense and bodily centered people when used in a narrow sense. The portrayal of these pre-flood people reveals What the literary mode of the earliest people was like. Literally mode.
Mode.
Mode. Type like this. State. The literally mode. Mode. Of the earliest people was like, and so what the prophetic mode was like. The chapter from here to the end describes those people telling of their delusions in the current verse. Delusions. Delusions in the current verse. And on their appetites in verse 23 below. In other words, it depicts the condition of the ideas in the intellect and then the condition of the impulses in their will. Although nothing in them was truly a matter of understanding or will, the contrary thoughts and impulses they had must still be called as such. These include their distorted convictions, which are anything but matters of understanding, since they are the product of thought and of twisted logic, and the cravings, which are anything but a matter of will. Those people are described, as I was saying, in respect first to the distorted convictions and next to the cravings, which is why the statements of verse 21 here are repeated in verse 23 below, although in a different order. The prophets used the same manner of expression. Its basis is the existence of two vital forces in us, one belonging to the ideas of the intellect and the other to the intentions of the will. The two kinds of life force are perfectly distinct from each other. We consist of both, and although they are separate in people today, the one still has an influence in the other and for the most part unites with it. The fact that they unite can be established and illustrated by much supporting evidence, as can the way they unite. Since we consist of these two sides, then of intellect and will, and since the one side affects the other when the word draws a picture of a human being, it depicts each of the two sides separately. This is the reason for the repetition, which would otherwise be a defect. The same is true with every facet. Facet.
Facet.
Facet. Every facet of reality, because different abstract phenomena exactly mirror conditions in the people who experience them. They are attributes of those people because they arise out of them. An abstract phenomenon separated from the person subject to it or from a substance underlying it has no reality at all. This is the reason the word describes things as having two parts in the manner detailed above. Doing so makes the portrayal of every phenomenon complete. An indication that the present verse is talking about delusions and verse 23 about appetites is that the present verse mentions birds first and then beasts. Birds symbolize different aspects of the things we understand or find logical, while beasts symbolize different aspects of the things we intend. When matters of desire are described, however, as they are below in verse 23, beasts are named first and then birds. This device is used because, as noted, each side influences the other, so that to describe them this way is to give a full description, including the bird and the beast and the wild animal and every crawling thing crawling on the earth symbolizes their self-deceptions. Bird symbolizes an attachment to falsity. The beast symbolizes corrupt desires. The wild animal symbolizes sensual pleasure. The crawling thing, crawling, symbolizes bodily and earthly yearnings. And these different impulses are contained within the self-deceptions. The symbolism here is established by earlier demonstrations of the meaning of birds and beasts. A treatment of birds appeared at section 40 and above at verses 14 and 15 of this chapter. A treatment of beasts also appeared in the latter place and at as well. Because birds symbolize matters of understanding, reason, and fact, they also symbolize the opposites of these: corrupt reasoning, falsity, and attachment to falsity. These words portray the self-deceptions of a pre-flood person in their entirety. Entirety. Integrity.
Entirety.
Entirety and integrity, like the same thing. Specifically, the feelings of attachment to falsity, corrupt desires, sensual pleasures, and bodily and earthly yearnings that their self-deceptions carried with them. All these impulses are inherent in a person's delusions, although no one realizes it. We tend to consider a false premise or conviction and irreducible. Is this irreducible?
Irreducible.
Irreducible. It's like reducible. Can you explain what does it mean, reducible? Maybe let's see in dictionary, reducible. Impossible to transform into or restore to a desired or simpler condition. Incapable of being factored into polynomials of lower degree with coefficients in some given field, such as the rational numbers or integral domain, such as the integers. Impossible to make less or impossible to make less or smaller. Irreducible.
Irreducible.
Irreducible. Conviction an irreducible unit, or else a single generalized concept, but we are very wrong. The situation is completely otherwise. Each of our feelings derives its manifestation and its nature from resources in our intellect and in our will. One whole being, then, with all that we understand and all that we will, enters into every emotion that we have, and in fact into the most detailed, minute aspects of our emotions. Minute.
minute,
A minute. No, most detailed minute aspects of our emotions. Minute. This has become clear to me from a wealth of experience. To mention a single example, in the other life, spirits can be recognized by just one of the individual ideas that go into their thinking. The angels even receive from the Lord and an ability merely to look at a person and fathom immediately what the person's character is. Fathom,
fathom,
it's fathom. And fathom, it's like comprehend and understand and penetrate. Fathom, fathom, fathom. To look at a person and fathom immediately what the person's character is without making the slightest mistake. Slightest mistake.
slightest,
It's like small list. This shows clearly that every one of our ideas, every one of our feelings, and indeed every shred of feelings in us, no matter how small, is an image and a portrait of us. To put it another way, each of these contains an element, whether closely or distantly related, of every thought in our intellect and every impetus. Impetus?
impetus,
Impetus. Like pulse, impulse. Impetus.
impetus,
Mm, impulse. Impetus. And every impetus of our will. These verses then describe the appalling convictions of a pre-flood person and how they carry with them attachment to falsity, attachment to evil, corrupt desire, sensual pleasure, and bodily and earthly yearnings. All these impulses are inherent in such convictions in which bodily and earthly yearnings predominate, and not only in those convictions as a whole, but in the most detailed minute convictions.
convictions,
It's like confidence, belief, convictions. Convictions, belief, confidence. Minute aspects of them. If we realized the extent of the consequences for one false assumption or one false persuasion, we would be horrified. Each is like an effigy of hell. Effigy.
effigy,
It's like image. Effigy of hell. But if you adopt it in all innocence or ignorance, the falsity of it is easily dispelled. The added phrase every human means that these things existed in the people under discussion. It is a general closure. General closure.
closure,
Closure. It's like general mm, liquidation. Mhm. That embraces. mm, this is a general closure and discussion. It is a general closure that embraces everything before it. Such tags occur in many places. Maybe general closure in this sense, maybe closing, completion. Mhm. Everything that had the breath of living spirit in its nostrils symbolizes those who were part of the earliest church and had the breath of living spirit in their nostrils. That is, who had lived a life of love and of a faith based on love. This can be seen from what was said earlier at life was what the earliest people meant when they referred to breath in the nostrils. Breath is the vital physical force that corresponds to spiritual things, just as beating of the heart is the vital physical force that corresponds to heavenly things. The people spoken of here are the pre-flood people who had inherited from their ancestors the rudiments of a heavenly rudiments.
Rudiments.
Rudiments. Like
Vestige.
vestige. Remnant. Rudiments of a heavenly quality, although it came to be snuffed out or smothered. That is why it says everything that had the breath of living spirit in its nostrils. These words also conceal an even deeper meaning one dealt within. This deeper secret is that the people of the earliest church breathed internally so that the breathing was harmonious, harmonious, harmonious. I think.
Harmonious.
Yeah, harmonious. So that the breathing was harmonious with and similar to the breathing of the angels. More on this later with the Lord's divine mercy. Such respiration varied with all the phases their inner being went through. It changes over time in their descendants, however, up to this final generation, in whom everything angelic died out. When that happened, they fortified their ability to breathe in unison with the angelic heaven as well. This was the real reason for their extinction, which is why it now said that they passed away and that those extinction. It's like death, degeneration, dying, extinction. When that rose with the breath of living spirit in their nostrils died. From this time, inner breathing ceased, and along with it, people's contact with heaven, and therefore the ability to intuit things in a heavenly way, and external breathing took its place. To intuit things,
Intuit.
intuit. To intuit things in a heavenly way and external breathing took its place. Since contact with heaven ceased in the death, the people of the ancient church, which was the new church, were no longer capable of a heavenly character as
Character.
character. Character. Character.
Character.
Character.
Character. Yeah? Character.
Character. Character.
Yeah. Character. Character.
You almost got it right.
Thank you. Character.
You're welcome, Bill.
As the earliest people had been, but only a spiritual one. This will be dealt with below, though the Lord in His divine mercy willing. The conclusions follow logically that of all that was on dry land symbolizes people who no longer had any of that life, and that they died means that this life expired. And since the whole living force of love and faith had been eradicated, the term dry land appears. Dry land is a place without water, that is, where there is no longer anything spiritual, let alone heavenly. The conviction that falsity is true destroys any spiritual or heavenly quality by suffocating it, so to speak, as we can all see from much experience if we pay attention. Once people have laid hold of an opinion, even if it is utterly false, they stick to it so obstinately. What is this obstinately?
Something having to do with obstacles, probably.
Like stubbornly, yeah, stubbornly.
Right.
Obstinately. Mhm. Persistently. Obstinately that they do not want even to hear anything that contradicts it. They positively refuse to be taught, even if you place the truth before their very eyes. This applies still more strongly to those who treat their misguided opinions with a sort of reverential, reverential,
Reverential. Oh,
reverential. It's like it's from revere, yeah, like to revere a king, for example, yeah,
never heard
to
of it.
revere.
Never heard of it. Well, I know the "oh" is like something. Well, when you welcome someone.
Uh,
Thankful, I'm
mhm,
not sure. Reverential, I never
mhm,
heard of it before. Respectful, wow.
mhm. Yeah, it's like if you are before a king, like a queen of England, for example, you should treat with her or him with, reverential. Yeah.
What does the "oh" stand for? Can you translate that one as well? Find a synonym for it. The "oh," the next word.
Ah. Oh. Always. Ah.
It's like greeting, I think. Dread,
Trembling. Dread.
reverence, amazement.
Mm-hmm. Reverence. Reverence.
Reverence.
Reverence. Mhm.
Reverence.
Oh, I
Reverence.
know it sounds like reference, but it's a different word.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's carry on further.
Mm-hmm. Reverential awe. People who rebuff all truth. What is rebuff?
They must
Rebuke.
buff, but it's like you do it again. It's like buffing, but when you add the re part at the beginning of the word, it means like doing it all over again. Like reread it or restart it, rebuff it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you know what the buffing means.
Rebuff. It's like fight back, refusal, rebuke, resist, dismiss, refuse, reflect, who rebuff all truth and pervert. Yeah, it's like reject. People who reject all in this sense. Rebuff all truth and pervert what they do, allow themselves to hear suffusing. Suffusing. What is this?
Something having to do with suffering, probably. Jesus.
Suffusing.
Suffusing is like feel.
Cool feeling, yeah.
Suffusing themselves to hear, suffusing it with their fantasies are like this. They are the ones symbolized here by the dry land, which has neither water nor grain on it, as in Ezekiel. I will turn the rivers into dry ground and sell the land into the hand of the evil and strip the land and its abundance.
Can I interrupt you for a sec? What is this book even? I mean, most
It,
of the words that we keep finding here, they aren't being spoken like daily conversations. Not really a reason for you to learn them. Maybe it would be better for you to read an ordinary fictional book, like
it's
adventure story.
like children's story. Yeah, children's
Adventures,
stories.
adventures story, a fictional book, not the children one, not the one for the children, of course, something that's 18 plus. I mean, you'd
Mm.
get, you'd get acquainted with the conversations, with the vocabulary people use in their daily conversations. But these are some fancy ass words nobody uses nowadays. I mean, you do you. I'm just giving you a piece of advice. That's all.
Actually, this book is in modern English language, and Swedenborg is a very famous person. A lot of great people loved to read his books and learned from them, and among them, even 5 presidents of USA, for example. And Swedenborg is a very wise and smart person. He's a genius, and he has third highest IQ in history. His IQ is 206. You see, it's
Yeah, very admirable. I don't deny that. It's just some of the words that are being utilized in this book. I never heard of them before. So, I mean, it's
mm,
okay for some words to be there that, like just a small minority uses. Is just no reason for you to oversaturate your memory with them, considering you'll never be using them to begin with. Kind of a waste of space in your memory, don't you think so? But then again, do whatever you want. Then again, just a piece of advice, and that's all.
yeah. His books are filled with wisdom, and if, I believe I will be more wise and smart if I will read his books. If I read his books, because our wisdom mm, comes from not from wisdom other people, yeah, and knowledge.
No,
Okay.
you can't become wiser just by reading the books. It all comes down to you coming to the conclusions on your own. Like you have to think, you have to try to contradict what you read in those books, try to digest the information you receive from those books. Just reading won't help you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your advice. Mm-hmm.
You're welcome, pal.
But if you want to read, maybe you can read next section. Mm.
All right. You're starting with turning.
From verse Genesis 7:23. Next
All
page.
right.
You can read.
Yeah.
Turning the rivers into dry ground stands for a condition in which nothing spiritual remains. In Jeremiah, your land has become dry ground. Do you see? It's about spiritual meaning of the book of Genesis of the Bible, and from these passages we can interpret and understand the meaning of dry ground, because what it means, dry ground. And he says that dry ground stands for a ruined and devastated land where nothing true or good remains, because Swedenborg wrote only about spiritual things, spiritual meaning, like inner meaning of Bible and other holy books like this.
I
And
assume the whole book that you're reading here, it's like dedicated to interpreting the Bible. I mean, I haven't read the Bible myself, so I don't know what's going on in there. So probably that's why I can't, like grant a true appreciation to this book because I haven't read the Bible. So I don't know what is it this author keeps referring to.
mm.
Yeah.
uh, no, maybe you can tell your opinion about his point of view. Do you agree with his point of view, or don't you agree, and why don't you agree, or why are you agree with his point of view? Because it,
I don't know. It's something. I don't know. The whole thing sounds like gibberish to me. I mean, those are kind of ephemeral. Like like not practical things are being discussed here. So it's not my kind of a thing. Like I said, I'm not a religious person either. So
actually this book, the books of Swedenborg are about mind. It's not about Bible and literal meaning, but it's about mind. I mean, you can understand your mind uh, in his point of view. I mean, he tries to explain us where we are, who we are, and where we are right now, in this sense, because it's like literal meaning of the Bible corresponds to spiritual meaning, and spiritual meaning is like what is happening right now in our minds, like because
I
it's
would
about,
just call
because
it.
it's not about time. I mean, the rule number one: don't think about time and space when you read when you read Bible or another holy books. Don't think about time because God is outside of time and space. Think what is eternal. Think what is happening right now within your inner world, like within your mind. It's like a matrix, maybe, because we are like in matrix. Maybe it's better to understand who we are.
It's very
And
important. Which Matrix are we in? The first trilogy or the fourth movie? The shitty one. The remake. That was a joke. Never mind.
okay, let's start. It's your verse, Genesis
Alright,
seven
let's give it a
twenty
try.
three. Mhm.
Uh, Genesis 7:23. And all substance that was on the face of the ground was obliterated, from human to any animal to creeping thing to the bird of the heavens, and they were obliterated from the earth. And Noah alone was left, and what was with him in the ark. All substance of was obliterated symbolizes cravings, which are product of self-love. That was on the face of the ground symbolizes the descendants of the earliest church. From human to animal to creeping thing to the bird of the heavens symbolizes the nature of their evil. The human is the actual nature. The animal is cravings. The creeping thing, sensual pleasure, and the bird of the heavens, the falsity that grows out of these. And they were obliterated from the earth, sums it up by saying that the earliest church passed away. Noah alone was left, and what was with them in the ark means that those who made up the new church were kept alive. What was with them in the ark being everything that belonged to the new church. Okay, there's that.
Go on.
I get. Oh, okay. The symbolism of all substance was obliterated as cravings, which are product of self-love, is established by the next few phrases, which describe the cravings through the creatures that represent them. Substance has to do with matters of the will, because in human beings everything rises out of the will. That is to say, everything emerges from the will and feeds off of it. The will is a person's real substance, a person's real self. The cravings of corrupt desires of the pre-flood people grew out of self-love. There are two very broad categories of selfish desire. One has to do with self-love, the other with the love of worldly gain. We can crave only what we love, so cravings are a matter of love. The pre-flood people were dominated by self-love and therefore by the appetites connected with it. They they loved themselves so intensely that they considered themselves gods, not acknowledging any god higher than themselves. That was their connection. Well, that's basically what's happening right now, right? Majority of people, they kinda decline the idea of God, and they have the power of law replacing the God, right? Like the law of the country where they live in that regulates their life, the flow of their life, the things that they're allowed and not allowed to do.
Yeah.
By the way, I guess that's the end of my
And,
piece.
yeah, and they worship money. Yeah, like this. Like they
No,
think
you
that.
know, I think It's more like, like people realize that, well, what is this Bible or any kind of religious book to begin with? What was it? What kind of meaning did it hold for the ancient people? It was basically the guidebook. So basically, if everybody follows that book, no matter where does it come from, everybody will prosper from it. Because no matter the Bible, the Quran, or I don't know what other religions that they have their own guidebooks, those rules, like represented in them, they made sense. Like, don't kill another human being, right? Don't cheat on your partner, or don't, don't
Don't take.
steal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, don't
Don't
take things
steal.
that don't belong to you. Things like that, they
Eh,
make sense, don't they?
and don't take a wife of your neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Like,
don't cheat, like I said.
don't cheat. Hmm.
So basically, those things they make sense. I mean, no cheating, no stealing means like there are always disputes in the community. So in the end, there will be more people, and the this community will prosper, become more richer. It's a good thing. It makes sense. And how do you keep people in line? How do you make people obey to these rules? Obviously, you just, like you scare them with punishments that might await them in the afterlife. But nowadays, majority of people decline the very idea of the afterlife because it doesn't make sense. We live in the 21st century. Kind of gutter can we be talking about? I mean, we've started launching things to the outer space daily. We know there's no God living out there in the sky. There's an open space out there, outer space. There's other planets, galaxies, and such. So for now, people like they've replaced an idea of God with an idea of rationalism, efficiency, like common sense, and the rules, like the law.
Yeah, people are possessed by naturalism like this, yeah, and materialism and naturalism. Yeah,
Yeah,
like they live their lives like cattle, and
like whom?
like cattle, like
Oh,
cattle.
kettle. Like yeah,
Yeah,
I know what the kettle is. I thought you were about to say Catholics, but yeah.
cattle, like
Yeah, yeah, I know what the
cows
kettle. It's like
and
animals, like the cows and
yeah.
such. Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, why would you call them that like that? The cattle. No, people live by the rules. What's so wrong about it? They live their lives peacefully, trying not to violate the rules that are for everyone. It's a good thing, isn't it? Because it really feels
Yeah,
like you attached a bad meaning to the cattle when you referred to them.
yeah, because in my understanding that this is not the role of the man, the role of the man to rule over other men, because the
But you are mistaken. There's no some man ruling over the other. Everybody is equal in the face of law. That's the major idea. That's what we should be trying to achieve. We all should be equal. It's just everybody plays their own part. I mean, there are no more kings, no more lords, tsars, right? We're all equal people here.
yeah, and can you say that power is an illusion? The the love to rule is greed, like desire, like to rule over other men is greed, like because how can we make the world a better place? How can we change the world? A lot of people want to change the world and to make the world a better place, but what can we do, yeah, for it? Because
Yeah, well, everybody has their own vision of it, right? Everybody has their own vision of the better world.
yeah, and Swedenborg gives us the method. How can we teach people and instruct them? Because we people are like information beings, because we are like computers. I mean, our minds are like computers, and if we will have a good program within our minds, we we will be better, and we can change the world, and we can build the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. Because Jesus
Hello?
commanded us to.
Excuse me.
Hello,
Oh, excuse me. Who's the next person to read?
next person. What? Sorry.
I'm asking who is the next person to read.
I think
I
he
don't know.
wants to read.
No, I don't know if I joined a debate club, a reading club.
Oh, we
Yeah,
just
you can read if you want. In your turn, next person. When
Thank you.
it's just we do read indeed, but after we're done reading, we feel like discussing it for a little bit. But yeah, I guess if Daddy wants to read, why don't we let him? What do you say?
yeah,
I don't know.
because it's very interesting to share your opinion about his point of view. It's the book of Swedenborg, and what can you say about his point of view? It's about the inner meaning of the book of Genesis of the Bible.
Yeah, by the way, before he starts reading, I shall need to bounce off, so thanks for letting me to read and discussing it with me. So, but I gotta be going now. Take care.
See you. Goodbye. Okay, who you can read from here, section 810 809.
Thank you. Okay. From 809. Okay, so I'm going. The symbolism of that was on the face of the ground, as the descendants of the earliest church is established by the symbolism of the ground as the church, and so as everything that belongs to the church. This has already been detailed in that reference that is guided there. Okay. So since the verse describes substance that was on the face of the ground as being obliterated.
Obliterated, like maybe
Yeah.
destroyed. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, obliterated. The meaning is that the people in the earliest church who were like this were wiped out. The word ground is used here, but the word earth in verse 21 above, because intellectual traits are never described as being the church. Only qualities of the will are a bare knowledge of faith and reasoning that supports. Faith does not in the least constitute the church or a member of the church. Charity in the will does. Every essential quality comes from the will. As a result, doctrinal concepts also do not make the church unless they look to charity in their whole and in every part. Just give me a second. My kids is they're enjoying themselves. Okay, I think the next person can read because I need to mute my microphone. Thank you for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. When they do this, charity becomes the purpose, and the purpose behind a doctrinal concepts. The concept is what reveals its quality, whether it really embodies the church or not. The Lord's church, like his kingdom in the heavens, consists solely of love and charity. Mhm. From human to animal to creeping thing to the bird of the heaven symbolizes the nature of these people's evil. The human is the actual nature, the animal is cravings, the creeping thing, sensual pleasure, and the bird of the heavens and false city that grows out of this. This is established by the symbolism of all these things as dealt with above, so there is no need to linger over them. They were obliterated from the earth. Some sit up by saying that the earliest church passed away. Noah alone was left, and what was with him in the ark means that those who made up the new church were kept alive. What was with him in the ark being everything that belonged to the new church. These things also need to further explanation because they are self-evident. Mhm. Who wants to read next verse? Genesis 7:24. Who wanted to read? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Genesis 7:24. And the water straightened on the earth for the 150 days symbolized the ending point of the earliest church. 150 is an ending point and a starting point. The symbolism of these words are the ending point of the earliest church and one of the 150 as an ending point and a starting point is not so susceptible.
What is this? Susceptible. Susceptible. I think. No.
Susceptible.
Yeah. Susceptible. Without. Without. Okay. Susceptible.
Susceptible.
Susceptible. It's like receptive. Sensitive.
Okay.
Sensitive. Sensitive.
Sensitive.
Sensitive. Susceptible.
Susceptible to prove from the words as the meaning of these simpler numbers which appear over and over. Still, it can be deduced from the fact that the number 15 dealt with above at verse 20 symbolize, symbolizes what is a merger as
Maybe Miga. Miga.
meager. Meager
Meager.
Miga.
is meager. Okay.
It's like poor.
Oh, okay.
Modest, skinny,
Yeah.
limited. Miga. It is
Meager.
so meager.
Be hardly anything. Uh, all that much more so the number of the 150, which is product of 15 and 10, since the latter symbolize remaining traces, multiplying a small amount, a half quarter or tenth, for instance, result in an even smaller product, so small finally as to be almost nothing. In consequence, it is a conclusion or ending point. The same number appears aging in Genesis.
Again. Again.
Again in Genesis 8:3. Water receded at the end of the 150 days, where the meaning is similar. We need to view the numbers in the word quite separately from the literal meaning. They are either simply to spin our the thread of the story found in the letters, as stated as stated and shown before. Where seven occurs, for instance, it means holiness with no reference whatever to the periods of time, and the measurements that is usually uh, qualified.
What is it? Quant-
Qualified.
quantifies. It's about
Quantified.
it's from quantity, I think. Quantity. Quality. Yeah, it's about quantity.
Quantifies.
Quantify.
Quantity and quality. hmm
Yeah. Okay.
it's like measure and calculate.
Yeah.
Quantifies.
Quantifies. Okay. Angels who perceive the inner meaning of the word know nothing of time and measure, let alone what number is specific. Yet when we read the word, they fully understand it. Wherever a number comes up, then they are unable to form any idea of a number but picture instead the phenomenon that the number symbolizes. So by the numbers here and understand the ending point of the earliest church, and in verse 3 of the next chapter, they understand the starting point of the ancient church, which was the new church. The hells continue, the hells of those who spend their life in hatred, revenge, and cruelty. There are people who nurse murderous hatred and therefore meditate revenge, seeking nothing short of their victims' death and not resting until they have achieved it. Spirits like this are kept in a deep, cadaverous hell.
Cadaverous is like hole, maybe, yeah, cadaverous. No.
Cadaverous.
Cadaverous is like dead body.
Okay.
Cadaverous hell. But cadaverous hell, what is this?
Cadaverous hell.
Cadaverous hell, like, yeah, like hell from dead bodies, like this, maybe.
Okay. One that reeks with a stench like that given off by a corpse. Strange to say,
Corpses.
corpses. Okay.
Rix, what is Rix?
Reeks.
It's like stench, strong smell.
Okay. Okay.
Of
Strange.
corpses.
Yes.
He means that spirits in that hell likes to smell a stench of by corpses.
Okay. Strange to say, the people there enjoy the stench so much that they prefer it to the most pleasant smells, such as their horrendous nature and the crazy thinking it spawns. The odors described actually waft from the hell when the place yawns open, as it rarely does.
Really does. Place yawns. Just yawns.
Yawns.
It's like gape. Yawns. And spawns. Thinking it spawns. What is this?
Spawns.
Spawns like offspring. Mm-hmm. It's a verb. It's like multiply. Yeah, multiply. It's really does.
And then, just briefly, so foul a smell pours out that spirit cannot stay in the vicinity. Some demons, or rather avenging furies, were let out of the hell in order for me to discover what they were like. They infected the air with such poisonous and what is
Pest,
that?
pestilential. It's like pestilence.
Pestilential.
Pestilential, like plague.
Plague.
Plague. Plague. Pestilential.
And
Fumes.
Fumes.
Fumes like vapor. It's like smoke, smell, gas.
pestilential fumes that the spirits around me could not remain. At the same time, they affected my stomach in such a way that I threw up. They presented themselves in the form of a young child with a tolerably attractive face and a concealed dagger, whom
Concealed dagger. What is this?
Dagger.
Dagger. It's like knife. Knife.
dagger,
concealed, but concealed dagger in the sense, like two words.
Dagger.
Yeah, concealed, like dagger is hidden. Mhm.
Okay. Whom they sent to me with a flax in hand. From this, I learned that they had a taste for murder by needle, dagger, or poison. Under the under the guise, guise,
Guys,
guise.
is like it's about face, like appearance, kind
Guys.
Yeah.
mask,
Okay.
like mask of innocence. Under the mask, like guys,
Okay.
like
And
face.
right. Under the guise of innocent, the bodies of the spirit themselves were naked and quite black. Soon, though, they were sent back into their cadaverous smelling hell, and then I was able to watch the path of their descent. They headed to the left, keeping level with my left temple and going quite a distance without moving downwards. Later they did descend, traveling first into a fire that appeared, then into a cloud of fiery smoke like that from a furnace, and that
Fairness,
furnace.
fairness, fairness. It's about fire.
Furnace.
Furnace, like electric furnace, where you can cook your food.
Okay,
Furnace.
furnace. And directly afterward to a point below the furnace and in front, where many dark and gloomy caves led farther down along the way. They were constantly devising, devis,
Maybe
devising,
devising, yeah,
yeah,
devising.
devising ever,
It's
ever
about
plots.
divisions. Yeah,
Devising.
devising. And devising is like it's not about division. It's about develop. hmm Invent. Devising.
Yeah, devising evil plots and schemes. Their intended victims were primarily the innocent, whom they targeted without cause. While passing through the fire, they wailed loud and long. When released from their hell, they take with them a kind of ring that allows others to identify where they come from and what they are like. The ring is set with spikes, which are made of something like like bronze.
Pikes. The ring is set with pikes.
Spikes.
hmm No, it's like nail, maybe like this. Pikes.
And which they grip tightly and twist with their hands, a sign that they are this type of spirit and that they are under restraint. Yeah, I stop here. Thank you.
hmm Thank you. Who wants to read next?
I read
Go ahead.
815.
hmm
Okay. Some take so much pleasure in hatred and the revenge it inspires that they are not content simply to kill the body but long to destroy the soul as well. Although the Lord redeems the soul, they are lower the what what is the first one?
Lowered
Oh,
though.
lower though a dark hole toward the bowels of the earth. The depths
What
to
is
which
bowels? Bowels.
Bowels.
Bowels. It's like Bowels, it's like inside of earth, like womb of earth. It's like figurative
Mhm.
language. Bowels of earth, of the earth.
Okay. The depths uh, the depths to which they go being determined by the intensity of their hatred and the vengefulness growing out of it. A dreadful terror and horror then strike them, while they are being held in the grip of their lust for revenge. As the desire grows, they slip even farther down. Later, they are sent to a place beneath Gehenna, where big, terrifying, round-bellied snake,
Round-bellied.
round-bellied,
It's about belly.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
about snake. Round
like
round-bellied snakes.
snakes appear, as lifelike as if they actually existed. They torture the vengeful spirits with their bites, which the spirit experience just as vividly as they do the snakes. Spirit Spirits feel these sensations corresponding as they do to the spirits' lives, as keenly as people living in the body feel bodily sensation. Meanwhile, they live out their dreadful fantasies, wallowing in them for ages, until they no longer know that they
Wallowing. What is this?
wallowing.
Fantasies wallowing in them for ages.
Wallowing.
Wallowing. It's
Foundering.
like mm, it's like
Sink.
bathe, bathe, sink, and roll. Like in this sense, following in them for ages. Maybe it's like figurative. Following them for ages. Figurative language too. Yeah, it's like to swim in them for ages, like this dreadful fantasies.
Okay.
Figurative language. Until they
While
no longer. Next.
they were once human, by no other method can the way of life that they acquired from such acts of hatred and revenge be extinguished. The different general kinds of hatred and vengefulness are beyond counting, the specific kinds still more so. And the hell for one kind is not the same as the hell for another. So it is impossible to list each in order. For this reason, let me simply report on some examples I have seen. One spirit who seemed to be a noble came to me. Spirits have appeared to me as if in clear daylight, and even more clearly than that. But to my inner eye, since the Lord in His divine mercy has let me interact with them. As soon as he arrived, he pretended, by sly nodding, to show that he had many things he wanted to share with.
What is this sly nodded? No, sly nodding. Maybe
Mm,
sly.
sly,
Sly.
sly,
Sly. Sly is like crafty, wicked, clever,
cunning,
slowly, mm, in secret, on the quiet. By
sly,
sly nodding. Sly nodding is in sense like nodding.
like
Mhm. Yeah, it's like to by your head, to bow by your head, like mm, sly nodding. Okay.
okay,
To show that he had many things he wanted to share with.
with me, asking whether I was a Christian. I answered yes. He said he was. He said he was. to and asked to be alone with me so that he could tell me something privately. In this life, I answered, no one can be alone. The way people on earth think they can, many other spirits are close by. He came nearer anyway, stealing up from behind to the back of my head. I could then tell that he was an assassin. While he was there, I felt
And what is assassin?
assassins like yeah,
Assassin.
killer.
Mm-hmm.
Assassin.
Assassin, killer, assassin, and
I
stealing up.
felt
He came near anyway, stealing up, like stealing. What does
stealing
it mean?
up from behind.
Stealing up, like a cat to mouth. If a cat wants to catch a a mouse, when a cat wants to catch a mouse, he he is stealing up to that mouse from behind to catch it like this. Yeah, like to seize,
Yeah,
kidnapping, like
kidnapping.
stolen, rob, take away, plunder, stealing up. Mhm.
A stab to the heart and then to the brain. The kind of person could easily die from. But because the Lord was keeping me safe, I was unafraid. What trick he was using, I cannot say. Thinking I was dead, he told some other spirits that he had just come from a murder victim of his, one to whom he had dealt a fatal blow from behind. He claimed a skill at keeping people from knowing what was happening until they fell.
Fatal. And what is stab to
Stab, um, um,
the heart?
stabbing, like
Stabbing.
with a knife. Yeah, like
Hmm.
someone will stab
Okay.
you
Yeah,
at the back.
like to strike by a sword
A
to the heart.
knife.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A knife, yeah, knife or sword, like this.
Uh, dead, and from
Until they fell dead.
they fell dead, and from suspecting he was anything but innocent. From this, I could tell that he had recently departed life, where he had committed the same kind of crime. The punishment of such spirits is horrible. After enduring ages of hellish torment, they end up with faces so loathsome, so shockingly deformed that they are not faces but almost like flocks, drained of all color. In other words, these spirits strip themselves
Like flux. What is it? Flux.
mine
Flux, like linen flux. Okay, like flags drained of all color. Strip themselves.
of everything human. Then everyone who sees them shudders at the sight. Consequently, they wander in the shadows like wild animals. A certain spirit from a room in hell that was off to the left side came to me and talked with me. I was allowed to perceive that he was a criminal type. This is how his misdeeds in the world were were
Shudders. What is this?
sh-
She
shudders.
sees them shudders.
Shudders.
Tremble.
Tremble.
Like tremor.
Right.
Shudders.
And the world were exposed. He was sent fairly far down into the underground realm that was in front and a little to the left. And there he began to dig a hole, as people do for burying the dead. This made me suspect that he had committed some fatal deed during bodily life. Next there appeared a beer swath in black, and soon a man rose off it and approached me. He told me with saintly restraint that he was dead, probably as a result of
Saintly restrained. Saintly.
Saintly.
It's like holy. Mhm. Saintly
sinless,
restrained.
Restraint.
It's like
restriction,
it's like
suppress. Restraints like suppressing obstacle.
hmm yeah. Saintly restrained and a beer swathe. What it? What is it?
Beer.
Beer.
Coffin.
Coffin. Yeah. It's like beer.
Stretcher.
It's like to carry a dead person.
Mm-hmm.
Like coffin and swathe in black. It's about color. Uh no,
Swathed.
it's about wrapped. hmm
Swathed.
Mm. Sweat in black.
Suede.
Sweat. Result of.
Poisoning by that man. This had been his dying thought, although he did not know whether it was an unfounded suspicion. When the wicked spirit heard this, he confessed that he had done the deed. Punishment followed his confession. Twist, Twice he was rolled into the black grave he had dug and become as black himself in face and body as Egyptian mummies. In this condition, he was lifted up high and carried around in front of spirits and angels, while people shouted, "What a devil!" He also turned cold so that he belongs among the cold in hell, and he was sent to hell. Under the buttocks is a fearsome hell where the inhabitants seem to attack each other with knives. Like furies, they thrust their knives at the chests of others, but the moment they strike, the knife is always taken.
Mhm. It's horrible.
Buttocks.
Yeah,
Buttocks.
buttocks is
Buttocks. It's like buttocks is like
Butt.
butt. Buttocks. It's
Mhm.
always taken.
From them. They are individuals who hated others so much that they burned to murder them viciously. From this they drew their appalling nature. The hell was opened up, but only slightly because of their terrible cruelties. For me to see what their savage hatred was like. There is a large oblong lake on the left to the left.
It's about lake, but oblong.
Oblong is shape.
Mm. Yeah, it's a shape like oval.
Oblong.
Oval.
Oval.
Sorry.
Oval. Oval. Oblong is oval. Lake to the left. Viciously. hmm
Viciously.
Angrily.
Angrily and brutally.
Brutally.
Brutally. Viciously.
Level with the lower parts of the body along the front back bank. The residents see, what's it, grotesque? Grotesque.
Grotesque, maybe grotesque.
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 Okay.
It's like absurd. Grotesque.
Absurd.
Absurd.
Grotesque.
Mhm.
Grotesque. Snake. Snakes of the types that live in standing water, spreading disease on their breath. On the left bank and further away are seen cannibals eating one another, sinking their teeth each other's shoulders. Even further away on the left appear huge fish, monstrous whales that swallow people down and then spit them out. At the farthest end, on the opposite bank, can be seen the most horribly deformed faces, especially those of all hags, so disfigured that they cannot be described. The owners of the faces running every which way as if insane. On the right hand bank are people who try to kill each other with instruments of torture. The instruments are varying with the different kinds of uh how should I pronounce it?
Villain. I think it's villainy. Villainy.
Villainy.
Villainy.
Villainy. Villainy. It's like wickedness. Atrocity.
Atrocity.
Atrocity. It's like horror. Villainy. Brutal crime. Very brutal crime like this. Villainy.
Villainy they have at heart. The middle of the lake is uniformly black, like a stagnant pond.
Uniformly.
Uniformly is like
It's
Uniformly.
equally.
consistently. Equally. Like consistently black.
Mhm.
Uniformly black. Like a standing pond.
Stagnant
Mhm.
pond.
Stagnant. Stagnant.
Stagnant pond. Stagnant pond.
Yeah, stagnant.
Stagnant.
Stagnant. Not stagnant, but stagnant.
Stagnant.
Like
Stagnant.
stagnation. Stagnation. Stagnant.
Stagnant pond. Several times I saw people being led to this lake, which surprised me. But I learned about the situation from several others living who were living. They said that the ones arriving were people who cherish against their neighbor a deep-seated hatred that erupted at every opportunity, affording them supreme pleasure. Nothing had delighted them more. I heard then um is it howling? Howling.
Holland, maybe. Holland.
Hauling.
Howling.
Holland. Holland like transporting, delivering, pulling. Holland. Carrying, drag. It's about transportation. Then hauling their fellow creatures up.
Creatures up.
And cherished. People who cherished.
Cherished.
Respect.
Respected.
Love.
Cherished. Mm, affording. Like afford.
Afford
Is of
from word itself, I guess.
Affording.
providing. Affording. Giving.
Give it.
Affording. Mhm. Giving them supreme pleasure. Yeah, we can say
Mhm.
affording. And giving them supreme pleasure.
creatures before a judge and having them sentenced to punishment. And if the penalties of law did not pretend it to execution. Into such horrors are people's hatreds and cruelties transformed after life in the body. The fantasies that result seem absolutely real to those people. Those who engage in robbery or piracy during physical life love sting, stinking,
Mm-hmm.
is it stinking,
Thinking.
reek, oh yeah, reeking urine above every other kind of fluid. They also seem to themselves to live among how's it sewage,
Maybe sewage.
sewage,
Sewage.
Sewage.
sewage,
Mhm.
Sewage.
Sewage.
sewage,
Sewage. Sewage. Do you see transcription?
Sewage.
Sewage. Like
sewage,
sewage.
like
Sewage.
sew, like
Yeah.
sewing,
Sewage. Sewage. Sewage.
Sewage.
sewage,
S
sewage,
U U. Like sewage.
sewage,
Sewage. It's like a
sewage,
wastewater. Fecal.
Feckle.
sewage,
Fecal. Fecal water like this.
sewage, sewage of this kind and in bad smelling ponds. One outlaw approached me grinding his teeth. To my surprise, I could hear the sound of the grinding as clearly as from a person on earth, even though these criminals do not have teeth. He admitted that he would much rather live in malodorous. Is it
U-
malodorous
Urine,
urinu
urinous, malodorous. Mal,
malodorous
I think it's malodorous.
Malodorous.
malodorous
Mhm.
malodorous
Malodorous. Malodorous, like smelly, like
smell
fetid.
Fetid.
malodorous
Fetid. It's like stinking, bad smelling. Malodorous. Yeah, it's about, this word is about odor. Odor like smell. You see,
yeah.
the root. Odor, malodorous. Urinous.
Urinous dampness then among the purest waters, and that the stench of urine was the what pleased him. He said that he preferred spending time in vats of urinous liquid to any other kind, and that he wanted to make his home there. There are some who maintain an outwardly honest face and honest life to avoid arousing suspicion that they are
And mm, 1 second. Dampness. Dampness.
Dampness.
Dampness. Moisture.
Moisture.
Moisture. Dampness is like moisture.
dampness
It's like any place is with water like this. Dampness.
among the purest water.
Some suspicion that they are.
Anything but upright. They eagerly pursue every method of so appearing in order to rise to prominent positions and to get rich without risking their reputation. For this reason, they do not act openly. Instead, they use agents to strip others of their goods by devious stagement. Stra,
Stra-
stra,
straight stratagems.
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 Strat,
Stratagems.
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 Stratagem.
Stratagems. It's like Mm,
Artful design.
Flow. Flow.
ploy,
Or
Ploy. Ploy. Like trick. Technique. Tactical move. Stratagems. By
stratagems.
and devious. What is this? Devious.
devious,
Ah, devious. It's like dishonest. Dishonest, like devious stratagems.
Not
It's like
caring.
very smart for doing evil things like this.
Yes.
Devious stratagems.
Stratagems. Not caring in the least whether the families they plunder die of starvation. If it could remain out of sight of the world, they would do the job.
Mhm. Starvation. Plan to die of starvation. They plan to die. It's like hunger.
Hunger.
starvation,
Yeah, people are starving, for example.
Starving. Like, do not get
It's,
starvation,
starved.
yeah, like if you feel hunger, it's like you feel starvation.
Hmm.
Starvation would do the job.
Themselves without a pang of conscience. Still, their character is the same, as if they had committed the act themselves. They are covert uh, thieves, and their particular type of hatred involves pride, greed, ruthlessness, and deceit. When people like this arrive in other world, they claim to be innocent, saying they have done nothing wrong since they have never been caught to demonstrate their luck
Mhm. Uh, po- punk. It's about conscience, like torture,
without
torturing of
of
conscience. But
conscience.
punk, it's like
pang,
pain.
pang,
Pan is pain, acquired pain,
acute pain,
acute pain, acute pain. Pan is acute pain. It's about conscience, pain of conscience, like this. To demonstrate their blamelessness.
Blamelessness. They take off their clothes and stand naked, giving witness to their purity. When they are questioned, others perceive exactly what they are like from every word they speak and every thought they think, although they themselves do not realize this is happening. Every acquaintance they come across in the next life they desire to kill, untroubled by remorse. In their hands they hold an axe and
Rem- remorse.
remorse,
Repentance, remorse. Remorse. It's
remorse,
repentance. Axe and hammer.
hammer, while at their feet they seem to have another spirit lying face up, whom they strike. They do not go so far as to spill blood, however, being fearful of that. What is more, they are unable to toss their weapons from their hands, although they try with all their might. In order to keep from being seen for what they are, they do not want the fierceness of their disposition to show in front of spirits and angels.
hmm And mhm.
They occupy a place in the middle distance, under the feet and toward the front. There is a type of hatred toward others that prompts people to enjoy injuring and abusing everyone. The more damage they can inflict, the greater their pleasure. Many of them are from the lowest social strata. Is it strata? Strata.
Social strata, maybe strata. No, it's like strata, I think.
Strata.
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 It's like layer. Mhm. Social. It's like class. Social class. Like social layers. Social grade class. It's like gradation. Like poor people and rich people. Lowest social strata is like very poor people, like
Mhm.
caste. Mm.
However, there are others not of that.
The that prompts people and abusing everyone. Damage. The more damage. What is damage? I forgot.
Damage is um,
Damage.
break,
In
breakage, break, damage,
mhm.
destruction.
Harm. Yeah, like harm.
Injury.
Injury. Trauma.
Trauma.
Trauma and wound. Wound and trauma. However, there are others not of that.
Class who have the same visceral reaction but better superficial manners, having been brought up to live in polite society and holding legal penalty in due regard. After death, they appeared unclothed from the waist up, their hair unkempt. unkempt. One will rush at another, grab the other's shoulders in a violent grip, tumble over the person's head, circle briefly, turn, and slag away, relentlessly.
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 hmm It's like persistently.
Tirelessly. Tireless.
It's like without stop.
Mhm.
Relentlessly,
Relentlessly.
steadily, and unkempt. Hair unkempt. It's about hairstyle like this, maybe. Hair unkempt. Yeah,
Unkempt.
like if you don't have,
Untidy.
if you if you mm, in morning after sleeping, your hairs like unkempt. You can say unkempt and violent grip. Grab the other shoulders in a violent grip. Tumble. What is this tumble?
Tumble over. It's like flip over. Is it? Yeah, I think. Jump
Tumble.
out.
Tumble.
Fall. Tumbling. With tumbling,
Uh,
it's
tumbling over like maybe 1 second. Tumbling over the person's head like to spring.
jump.
Yeah,
Tumbling.
yeah. Jump.
It's like
Jump.
jumping.
Jump over the person's head. Like
Yes.
acrobat like this. And the same vice. How did you say this word?
Visceral. I don't know if it's
Visceral.
correct either.
Visceral.
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 Visceral. It's like internal, interior,
Visceral.
mm,
Internal.
internal, visceral, and interior. In we can say
Intuitive.
intuitive. Yeah, it's like this visceral, like
Visceral.
Visceral.
visceral, like intuition,
Intuitive.
visceral reactions. hmm Next page.
Those whom I describe as better behaved act similarly but first exchange courtesies. then go around behind the other's back to attack with their fist. When they see each other face to face, they greet each other and then circle behind again to strike their blows. In this way, they preserve appearances. These spirits are seen to the left at a middling height, some distance away.
Blows.
Like
Blows.
attack. Yep.
Yeah, beaten by fists. Blows. Hmm. And change exchange courtesies.
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 Okay.
Courtesies like mm,
Politeness.
mhm,
Consideration.
Civility.
civility. Courtesy. Yeah, it's like civilization. Civility. Exchange courtesies when go around. Okay. Actually, yeah, 2 pages. Else.
Okay. Whatever we have done during bodily life, and even whatever we have thought, gradually comes back in the other life. When the hostile, spiteful, underhanded actions we have taken return, the individuals we hated and secretly plotted against also appear before us and appear in an instant. That is how things operate in the next life.
Mhm. Spiteful or pitiful?
Spiteful, spiteful. I don't know.
Spiteful.
Spiteful. Spiteful. Spiteful. It's like malicious, evil. Spiteful. For example, spiteful dog.
By the Lord's divine mercy, will deal with this kind of presence. The negative thoughts we have had about the people are also plain to see. Since everyone's thoughts are perceptible, miserable states result, hidden hatreds erupt openly. But bad people find that all their misdeeds and thoughts come back with vivid realism in this way. But good people do not. With them, all states of goodness, friendship, and love return, bringing with them the highest pleasure and happiness.
Thank you. Next chapter is the health continued. The health of those who spent their lives in adultery and lechery. In addition, the health of deceivers and witches. Who wanted to read? It's like Teddy Bear wanted to read. Okay, I'll read. Under the heel of the right foot is the hell of those who enjoyed cruelty and also adultery and felt the greatest pleasure of their lives in those two things. It is remarkable that people who were cruel while living in the body also practiced adultery more than any others. Such people live in this hell. There they inflict cruelties in unspeakable ways. In their imaginations, they create gay, giant, like giant,
Giant.
giant, gigantic, like giant and how to say it?
Gigantic.
Gigantic, gigantic, giant, mortar-like vessels. Mortar-like.
Mortar-like.
It's like that. Mortar-like vessels, similar to those used for grinding herbs. Grinding herbs. Grinding. To pronounce.
Grinding.
Grinding. Herbs and pestles, which they use to crush and torture everyone they can. They also conjure. This conjure. It's like juggle. Create.
Adjure.
Adjure. Conjure up. Executioners. Executioners. Executioners.
Executioners.
Yeah. Executioners. It's like torturer.
Torturer.
Torturer. Executioners. Brodaxis.
Broadaxes.
Brodaxis. Maybe we can see in dictionary this word, broadaxis. Large axe with a broad blade. Yeah. It's like axe. Broad axes. Or something like them, as well as treffiness.
Treffines.
Treffines. I don't know what does it mean. Treffines, with which they viciously maul. Maul?
Maul.
No. Devour like this. Viciously maul each other and other grim devices beside. Grim.
Grim.
It's like gloomy. Grim. Brutal. Grim devices besides. Treffins. I don't know. Maybe we can see in dictionary. Treffins. Instrument for cutting off circular sections, as of bone. Or... Okay. In that hell are a number of Jews who were once treated Gentiles in the same cruel ways. Today, the hell is still growing. The main additions coming from the so-called Christian world. These Christians obtained all the joy of their lives from adultery, and most of them were also abusive. Abusive. It's like cruel, violent,
Abusive.
abusive. Sometimes their delight is transformed into the reek of human dung, an odor that pours out copiously when the hell opens. Abundantly, copiously, abundantly. Copiously when the hell opens. I sensed the smell in the world of spirits and almost passed out. This fecal, 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 fecal or fecal?
Feckle.
Yeah, fecal. This fecal stench comes and goes in hell. It consists of the inhabitants' pleasure in adultery converted into a horrible aroma. Aroma.
Aroma.
Aroma, like fragrant. As time passes and they finish a certain amount of time living in such scenes, they are left alone, sitting on in pain, and seem to turn into misshapen skeletons, although they remain alive. Level with the souls of the feet in front and fairly far away is a hell called Gehenna.
Jenna.
Jenna, called Jenna, containing shameless women who centered all their pleasure on committing adultery. They regarded adultery as not just acceptable but honorable, and lured the unblemished and innocent into it under various high-minded guises. A sort of fiery glow appears there, like the one that a large conflagration
Conflagration.
it's like big fire, strong fire. Conflagration. Conflagration. Wood cast in the air. There is also a blast of heat, which I was able to feel through the warmth that spread from there to my face. And an odor drifts out that resembles the smell of um,
Singed.
singed. It's like burn, scorch. Singed bones and hair. Sometimes this hell turns into a mass of loathsome snakes that bite the inhabitants. Once beaten, they long for death, but they cannot die. Some women released from the place came to me and said it was hot there. They reported that when they are allowed to approach a certain community of good spirits, the heat turns into intense cold. The temperature, they said, then fluctuates.
Fluctuates.
Fluctuates. It's about temperature, like very change. Fluctuates. Fluctuates between extremes or of blazing heat and freezing cold, which also tormented them miserably. They have intervals during which they are aroused and aflame with lust, but conditions change for them as noted. There were some of each sex from the so-called Christian world who during bodily life considered their adulteries not only allowable, but even sacred, and for this reason contracted group marriages. Contracted.
Contracted.
It's about concluded. This reason contracted group marriages, as they so profanely called them, under the appearance of sanctity. Sanctity.
Sanctity.
It's like sacred. Sanctity. As I watched, they were sent to Gina, but when they arrived there, a change occurred. Gina, fiery glimmer, which is red hot because white hot at their approach and their and their in, inability to get along together became perceptible. As a result, that iniquitous, iniquitous. What is this?
Iniquitous.
Iniquitous. Iniquitous. Lawless. Lawless. Ungodly.
Iniquitous.
Iniquities. Troop.
Troop.
Like company, group. Troop. As a result, that iniquitous troop of theirs was removed and transferred to an area behind the back to another world I heard, where they would sink into the water and then move on to a new Gina created for them. An undescribable sort of hiss could be heard in the first Gina, but the hissing or whispering there was duller than the sound made by dollar.
Dollar.
Dollar. It's like deaf, slow. Dollar. Hissing. Hiss.
Hiss.
It's like a whistle.
Whistle.
A lot of new words here. Then the sound made by these people who polluted what is holy with their adulteries. There are some men who hide behind a love for marriage and a love for children in order to commit treacherous deeds. The behavior prevents any suspicion on a husband's part that they, as his guests, are anything but chaste, innocent friends. Under such appearances, and commit treacherous. Treacherous.
Treacherous.
It's about traitor, betrayer. Treacherous.
Treacherous.
Treacherous. Treacherous. Commit treacherous deeds. Under such appearances and many others, they commit adultery in relative safety. These people live in a hell under the buttocks and in the filthiest excrement, where because they are among the deceitful, they undergo such devastation that they finally seem to turn into skeletons. People like this do not even know what conscience is. I talked to them, and they were surprised that anyone might have a conscience or claim that adultery violates it. I told them that for adulterers of their type who have no compunction, what is this?
Compunction.
It's like remorse,
Remorse.
pain of conscience, no compunction, who have no compunction. It is as impossible to come into heaven as it is for a fish to rise into the air or for a bird to fly up into the ether. Let them only age close to heaven and they feel as though they would suffocate. The pleasure they feel turns into a stinking smell. They can only be thrust down into hell. Eventually they come to appear skeletal, which little life left, because this is the kind of life they have obtained for themselves. And when they lose it, only a tiny amount of truly human life remains. There are men who like nothing better than deflo deflowering. Deflowering.
Deflowering.
Deflowering. Better than deflowering virgins, that is, who take the greatest pleasure in virgins and in robbing them of their virginity without any thought of marriage or children. When they have stolen the bloom of their virginity, they abandon them in disgust or prostitute them. Men who have lived this kind of life have contravened. What is this contravened?
Contravened.
Contravened, like contradict, transgress. Have contravened the order of nature of the spirit and of heaven. They violate not only marriage a love held very sacred in heaven, but also innocence, which they wound and murder when they take innocent girls who could have had the love of marriage instilled in them and introduce them instead to the life of a whore. People know that the first blossoming of love is what introduces young women to the chaste love in marriage and unites the minds of married partners. Because heaven's holiness is founded on marriage love and innocence, and these men are inward murderers, as described in the other life, they suffer punishment of the most severe kind. They seem to themselves to be riding a frenzied horse. frenzied. Frenzied horse.
Frenzied.
Frenzied. Demonic, like mad horse. Frenzied horse that bucks them up into the air, throwing them off, apparently in danger of their lives, such is the terror that strikes them. Later they see themselves under the belly of the maddened horse, and soon seem to go up through the horse's rump into its stomach. Rump.
Rump.
Mhm. Croup.
Croup.
Croup. Like croup. Rump. And suddenly it appears to them as if they are in the belly of a woman, a foul slut. Slut. Foul slut.
Slut.
Slut. It's like whore. Mhm. A foul slut who changes into a huge dragon. There they remain hidden and in pain. This punishment
Hello.
recurs. Hello.
I'm sorry. Reading.
I'm reading the book, and if you want to read, you can read next section if you want. There they remain hidden and in pain. This punishment occurs many times over hundreds and thousands of years until the offenders gain horror for such desires. I have heard that their children are worse than others since they inherit this quality from their fathers. Accordingly, when people of this kind engage in sexual intercourse, it rarely produces offspring, and such babies as are born to babies are as are born do not live long. Mhm. Oh, it's a lot. Maybe someone wants to continue from section 829.
Okay, I continue.
Go ahead.
So during their to the live think loudly and turn whatever others say into surmising incident
Some-
even if the
Something.
subject is
Something.
holy and and they continue to do so even into adulthood and old age when nothing if early uh, last remains to God them neither do they stop thinking and speaking this way in the other world. Science in that world the truth are shared generally and sometimes present themselves in option from to the eyes of other spirits they cause offense. You continue.
It's eyes. You say eyes to see. hmm hmm Who wants to read next?
I read.
From you. hmm Yeah, go ahead.
There, start in there, right?
hmm
Their punishment consists in being laid out flat before the spirits they have hurt and spun quickly from left to right, like a scroll. Then they are spun crosswise in another position, and then in yet another stripped naked in the sight of all, or else half naked, depending on the nature of their debauchery. All the while they suffer shame. Next they are twirled horizontally, 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 horizontally by their head.
Horizontally.
Yeah,
Horizontally.
I was
Horizontally.
thinking about horizon. Sorry.
hmm Horizontally. Horizontally.
hmm
Horizontally.
Horizontally by their head and feet, as if around an axis.
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 Axis like
Axis.
coordinate.
Axis. Thanks. Resistance is triggered in them, together with pain, since two forces are acting, one spinning one direction and the other pushing back. So, the procedure tears them apart in an agonizing way. At the end of all the end of all this, the individuals have a chance to remove themselves from the gaze of other spirits, and they are filled with shame. Still, there are some spirits who test them to see whether they will persist in such behavior. But as long as they continue to feel humiliation and pain, they shy away from it. So they hide, despite the fact that others know just where they are. This punishment and appeared in front, some distance away. There are also bodies, adolescents, and
Boys.
boys, sorry. There are also boys, adolescents, and
Boys.
Boys.
young men who, in their youthful folly and lust, have taken it as a principle. a horrendous one, that a wife, especially one who is young and beautiful, should not belong to their husband but to themselves and others like them. The only role the only role they leave to the husband is as head of household and educator of the children. In the other life they are distinguished by the childish sound of their voices. They are at the back and fairly high up. The ones who have hardened themselves in these principles and in actually living their lives by them undergo wretched punishment in the other life. They suffer dislocation and rearticulation of their joints, or having their limbs wretched in one direction and then the other. The spirits who administer the punishment know how to create the illusion of a body, and along with it, the physical sensation of pain, the back and forth motion, and the resistance to it induce in them. At the same time, tear at them so violently that they seem to themselves to be ripped into minute shreds. With excruciating pain, the process repeats until, struck with horror for a life based on such principles, they abandon their former way of thinking. Some people fool others with great sub, sub, subtlety and craft.
Subtlety.
Yeah,
Subtlety.
No, subtlety
Subtlety.
without
subtlety.
B.
Oh yeah,
Subtlety.
subtlety. Subtlety.
It's like cleverness, shrewdness.
Subtlety.
Shrewdness.
Subtlety and craft, presenting a pleasant face and pleasant speech, but inwardly concealing poisonous deceit. In this way, they captivate others for the purpose of destroying them. Their hell is more forbidding than others' hells, more forbidding even than the one murderers are in. They seem to themselves to live among snakes, and the more hurtful their plots had been, the more dreadful, poisonous, and numerous appear the snakes that surround and torture them. They have no idea that these are not snakes, the pain and torment they feel being the same. Few will believe this, perhaps, and yet it is true. These are people who premeditate the frauds they practice and find the highest pleasure of their life in them.
Premeditate.
Premeditate.
Premeditate. It's like consider their life and them.
Dissemblers are wait,
What is dissemblers?
justice.
Dissemblers.
Dissemblers is like hypocrites. Dissemblers. Dissemblers. And chastist. Chastist.
Chastised.
Chastise.
Chastised.
Chastised.
Punished. Like punished. Smite. Chastised. Like it's about punishment.
Chastise.
Dissemblers are chastised.
Dissemblers are shown in several
Like
different
mhm.
ways. Okay. According to the nature of their disease. In general, the communities banish such people rather than tolerate them. Whatever a spirit thinks, Those nearby immediately know and perceive it, so they can tell if any duplicity is at work and what kind of duplicity it is. In consequence, after being driven away from society, they end up sitting alone. They then appear to
What is duplicity?
like du-
Duplicity.
Hypocrisy.
duality,
Mhm. To use
deceit.
two faces like this.
Duplicity.
Duplicity. For example, if someone wants to look like good person, but he is a bad person in his card, it's like he has duplicity.
Duplicity.
Duplicity. Then they then appear to
Have a broad face, equal in width to four or five others' faces. They were a wide. They were a wide white straw hat and sit like images of death, racked with pain. There are others who by nature are given to deception, so that they do not act from forethought, forethought, or under cover of a false appearance. They are recognized instantly, and their thinking is perceived plainly. They even boast about their dishonesty as if wanting to appear clever.
very wide, equal and wide. What is where they very wide?
Where
Wide
is like
face. Yeah, no,
wearing,
I know what is wide, but how to understand it? Like broad face and wide face. Broad face. Yeah, broad face is like, yeah, it's about form of shape of face. Broad face and wide face. Okay, clever. For example, if you can say to if any policeman can ask you for your witnessing for any criminal, what is his face, and you can say his face is broad, like white face. This
okay. These people do not have the same kind of hell, but more on charlatans later.
mhm. Charlatans. Or
Charlatans.
Healer,
charlatans.
Charlatans.
It's not charlatans, but charlatans. I think
like chanting,
it's not chip. It's she. It is she.
Charlatan,
This charlatan.
charlatan,
Charlatan. Not charlatan, but charlatan.
charlatan,
But
charlatan,
it looks like che, but it's she. Charlatan.
charlatans.
Hmm.
Lord's divine mercy, by the Lord's divine mercy. There are women who live a life of indulgence, focusing their energies on themselves and the world and centering their whole lives and all the pleasure of life on external decorum. As a result, polite society,
Decorum.
decorum, decorum, decorum,
Decorum.
decorum,
Decorum. It's like
Decorum.
it's like
appearance,
mhm, manners, good manners.
manners,
Mhm.
new etiquette, like
Rules of
decency,
Rules of decency.
decency, like this.
decorum.
As a result, polite society valued.
Valued them more than others. From practice and habit, they learn to behave in socially. accept
Social.
socially acceptable ways in order to tap into others' desires and sensual pleasures. This they did not under a pretense or respectability, but with the desire to control. Consequently, their lives became a sham and a lie.
Sham. What is it?
Sham?
Sham.
Fake. Sham.
Sham.
Fiction. Fictitious.
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 Just
Fake.
imaginary.
False. Fictional.
Fictional.
Fictional. Fiction. Game a sham and a lie. Yeah, lie is like falsehood. I know what is lie.
Wait, where? When this under the presence of
From this sham and
okay.
lie.
Became a sham and a lie. They attended church just as others did, but for no reason except to appear honorable and devout. Furthermore, la they lack any conscience and were very drawn to immoral and adulterous conduct, so far as it could be kept hidden. Their thinking remains the same in the next life. What a conscience is they do not know, and they scoff at people who use the word. They get inside others' feelings, whatever those may be, simulating honesty, pity, mercy, and innocence.
Simulating. Simulating.
Simulating.
Maybe simulating.
Let's see. Simulating.
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 Mhm.
Simulating.
Okay, thank you. Simulating honesty, pity, mercy, and innocence, and using this as covers for deception, whenever outward restraints are removed from them. They plunge into the most criminal obscenities.
What is it?
Obs-
Obscenities.
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 Obscenities. Obscenities like mud, foul language, and in this sense maybe like profanity,
Wardry.
bawdry. It's like bad deeds, bad behavior, like criminal obscenities.
Okay. Uh, where did I stop? Stratagem.
Criminal obscenities.
Obscenities. Okay. In the other life, these women become sorcerer, source, sorceresses or witches, some of whom are called sirens. They eagerly take up arts unknown in the world. They are like sponges and soak up wicked and cunning methods, for which they have such a talent that they put them directly into practice. The stratagems unknown in this
Sponges, like sponges. That soak.
sponge.
Sponges.
Sponge. Sponge. Tampon. What? Tampon.
Tampon.
Tampon. But in the sense like maybe
Washcloth.
washcloth. It's like sponge that soak up wicked and cunning methods. Soak. What is this soak?
Soak, like soak in.
Soak.
Absorb. Soak. Impregnate. Maybe impregnate.
Impregnate.
Impregnate. Impregnate is not about pregnancy, but it's like saturate,
Impregnate.
impregnate. And wicked and cunning. Cunning methods. What is cunning methods?
Cunning.
It's like craftness, cleverness. Next page. The stratagems are known in this. I think it's
A little, a little.
it's maybe before, yeah, we will read before Genesis 8. It's like maybe pages, maybe 8 pages like this.
Okay.
They can actually I can continue if you're tired.
Yeah, please.
Mhm,
Thank you.
mhm. In stratagems are known in this world that they learn. There are maybe someone wants to finish this reading. Maybe who's here? Okay. Worlds that they learn there are these. They can throw their voices so that it seems as though the sound were coming from good spirits somewhere else. They can seem to be with several people at once, convincing others that they are present almost everywhere. They can speak as though they were many people talking simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Like at once, together, yeah, speaking together, talking simultaneously and in many places at once. They can deflect what flows in from good spirits and even from angelic ones, and I immediately twist it to their own advantage in a variety of ways. They can impersonate. What is it? Impersonate?
Impersonate.
Impersonate. Like
Imitate.
imitate. Impersonate. Another by seizing of the person's patterns of thought and mimicking them.
Mimicking.
Mimicking, like imitating. Mimicking them, they can induce affection for themselves in anyone by warming their way. Warming. What is it? Warming.
Worming.
Warming. It's about worm. In Apple, for example. By warming their way into the actual emotions the person is feeling, they can suddenly drop out the sight and turn invisible. They can they they can create the appearance of the dazzling white flame, the sign of an angel around their head, and this in front of a large number of spirits. They have different ways of pretending innocence, even like you
Pretending.
pretending, you pretend, yeah, like you pretend to be humble, like this, of pretending innocence, even causing babies to appear and kissing them. And they inspire the people they hate to kill them, since they know they cannot die, and then publicly accuse them of being murderers. In my case, using consummate skill.
Consummate.
Consummate, like complete, finalize,
Finalize.
consummate. Skill they dredged up out of my memory. Dredged.
Dredged.
dredged, like fish sprinkle. They dredged up out of my memory everything bad that I had either thought or done. While I was sleeping, they talked to others exactly as if I were speaking, managing to dupe those spirits. Dupe, maybe. Is this to dupe?
Dupe.
Dupe. It's like sucker, cheat, fool,
Sucker.
sucker, sucker. Managing to dupe, dupe, dupe,
Dupe.
dupe. It's like simpleton too.
Simpleton.
Simpleton, dupe. To dupe those spirits, and what they said was false and lewd. Lewd,
Lewd.
lewd, like shameless. Lewd. They have many other devices as well. Their nature is so persuasive that not a trace or of hesitation can be defected in it. Hesitation.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, like uncertainty. Fluctuation. Hesitation can be defected in it. For this reason, their thoughts are not shared generally as other spirits' thoughts are. Their eyes like snakes' eyes, as people say, looking everywhere and projecting mental images in all directions. These witches or sirens are punished severely, some in Gina, some surrounded by snakes in a kind of assembly hall. The punishment of some consists in being torn apart and buffeted, buffeted, buffeted,
Buffeted.
buffeted, buffeted. A blow, especially with the hand, something that strikes with telling force. To strike sharply, especially with the hand, to strike. Buffeted, buffeted.
Buffeted.
In various ways with the greatest pain and anguish. After a while, they are obstra- obstracized,
Ostracized.
ostracized, ostracized. I can't explain what is it. Ostracized. Maybe in dictionary. To exclude from a group by common consent. To exclude from a group. They are ostracized,
Ostracized.
and turn into seeming skeletons from head to toe. More on this subject follows at the end to the chapter. Okay, this reading is over. I have to go, and goodbye.
All right. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye. VR, VV are still there. V.
Yeah, yeah. I'm here.
I thought, what are you doing?